Tonight on Frontline,
It's like being buried alive.
This place is like an insane asylum.
Thoughts of suicide come a lot.
solitary confinement.
You can't get yourself wound up because you can't leave that room.
For decades, it's been used to keep order in America's prisons.
Makes you mean, makes you violent, and it a lot of people's heads up.
He severely assaulted one of our staff members.
Now, prisons across the nation are asking, is it backfiring?
You can have them do their whole time in segregation. I don't want them living next to me when you release them.
Tonight, the story of one prison and a warden who wants to reform his isolation
And
unit.
I'm not interested in burying you.
I'm already buried, though.
The story of 6 months in solitary.
Try to be normal again.
My name's Todd Michael Fickett. I'm here for arson, in prison for arson. Down here, it's like being buried alive. You're someplace alive, but you're no place anybody wants you.
Todd Fickett has just assaulted a prison officer. He's been put in an isolation cell as punishment.
My mental state will probably go downhill like it did last time. I go pretty crazy.
Todd is facing 6 months alone in his cell. He's one of an estimated 80,000 inmates across the United States in solitary confinement. Friday night in the segregation unit at the Maine State Prison. All the inmates here are in solitary confinement.
Hear this.
Almost every day, the prisoners act out against the officers who work the unit. They flood their cells. They pour bodily fluids under their doors. And they cut themselves with razor blades.
Kid! I think you passed out. Kid, you need to cuff out.
That's you might as well talk to me now because you're going to talk to me sooner than later.
I have 3 windows covered right now, and one of them appears to be self-abusive. I've attempted to look through the tray slot to see if I could get a visual on him, and he's got it covered with a mattress. If I can't see him from the back window, we're going to have to go in and take him out for his own safety.
Inmates are forbidden from covering their windows in the solitary unit. They could be bleeding to death, or it could be a trick to lure the officers in.
He's got it all covered. So now we have to pull him out.
All right, gents, whenever you're ready to rock and roll.
611 A2. Do you have any large socks?
Get the shield to go
If I say go, rip that door open so these men can go in, okay? If I say hold, just hold it with a crack. Any questions at this time?
We're ready to go ahead and do a cell extraction.
You know you're going to come out. It's a smart way to do this. This is not it.
The officers sometimes have to use mace on inmates who won't comply.
Monsters! This is what they create in here, monsters.
And then they drop you into society and tell you, go ahead, be a good boy. You can't conduct yourself like a human being when they treat you like an animal.
In the solitary unit, nights like this are routine. Officers regularly have to remove self-abusive inmates from their cells.
This place is like an insane asylum. I don't even know how many times I've seen this tier filled with blood from these guys cutting their arms and their necks and their balls, cutting their ball sacks out, all types of craziness, and it's because they're stuck in here with nothing to do.
Gordon Perry, a convicted murderer, has been here for more than a year, longer than any other inmate in the unit.
If you don't have a strong mind, this place can break you quick. A lot of guys, they don't even have reasons why, they just snap out. That's what this place does to you. It makes you mean, makes you violent, and it f***s a lot of people's heads up. This is solitary confinement.
The maximum security Maine State Prison holds around 900 inmates. It's home to the most dangerous prisoners in the state. Most of them live in general population. They're allowed out of their cells each day and can interact with other inmates. The solitary unit is the prison within the prison. Inmates here spend 23 hours a day in their cells. They get an hour of exercise in a cage. Some are here long-term because they're judged too dangerous to be around other people. Some are here for their own protection. And others are here as punishment for disruptive behavior.
I just went overboard, freaked out, started punching stuff through chairs, screaming, and I got maced and tackled. They're trying to say I started a riot, and they brought me down here. I've been down here 2 days now.
21-year-old Adam Brulot is serving a 4-year sentence for breaking someone's jaw in a fight. Now he's in segregation, or seg as the inmates call it, for starting a riot.
I like seg. I can handle being locked down 23 hours a day because I can read, I can write, I can do push-ups. Most of the time I just chill. You gotta relax. You can't get yourself wound up because you can't leave that room.
Sounds good to my standards. And I'm always at this window, so I like the window to be clean. My face touches it, my hands touch it.
Yeah, it sucks, but I think I'm doing good.
Adam faces 2 months in solitary. Todd Fickett is 1 week into his 6-month stay in the solitary unit. Last night, he cut open a vein in his arm. Officers found him passed out in his cell. Self-harm is a punishable offense. His punishment is more time in solitary.
They gave me a Class A bodily injury charge for trying to kill myself, pretty much. They're trying to punish me for bleeding. Because on that floor, they want me to suffer for it. And that's gonna put me in a more depression spot, considering I already have to do enough of it as it is.
The officers say he's faking mental illness in an attempt to get moved out of solitary.
He's just trying to get what he wants. He knows he's going to spend a lot of time down in our segregation unit just for the fact that he severely assaulted one of our staff members, and he is trying to manipulate his way out of dealing with the consequences that come with assaulting a staff member.
Todd is allowed almost nothing in his cell, in case he tries to cut himself again.
Hey, how you feeling about not getting that meeting today?
After a year in solitary, Gordon Perry is also running out of patience.
He told me the same thing. He was going to see me this week. If I don't get some answers by 3 o'clock, I'm covering my window. And if I don't get good enough answers, they're extracting me.
It'll be a miracle if I don't get extracted today.
It's unreal how they force people's hands here.
I want to give them a little bit more time because when I cover that window up, I'm serious. This ain't my first rodeo. I got a pretty good setup, and we're gonna hopefully fight the team.
Come and get me.
Now the warden and his staff have to talk down two of the most dangerous inmates on the unit.
The only way you ever get anything around here is to act up. I sit back being good for a year, ain't working. All I'm getting smoke blowing up my ass every which way I look.
This is going to disqualify you from going to New Hampshire. If you do this kind of it's not going to happen.
Of course it's gonna happen. I've seen him make deals like left and right with people for putting this up in the window.
You got a couple of assaults in 17 years. How hard is it to move me? So I gotta be out of here pretty soon.
Because of what you've done here, we're going to move you out very slowly. What I need to know is when I move you out there, are you going to be safe?
Am I gonna be safe?
I need to know that the other inmates are going to be safe as well.
It ain't happened. You guys got me down here for a year. I'm all set with the stabbings. I'm ready to go out and try to enjoy myself a little bit.
I'm willing to look at moving you along, but it's going to be a while. We got to work the process, and I'm not interested in burying you.
I'm already buried though. I already been down here a year.
Solitary confinement began in the United States in the 1800s as a progressive experiment to see if isolation would reform criminals. It was soon largely abandoned because prisoners didn't reform. They lost their minds. But in the 1980s, solitary re-emerged as a way to stamp out prison violence. The United States now has more inmates in isolation than any other Western country.
The use of segregation has its place when you have real dangerous prisoners, but from my perspective, it is overused probably throughout the United States. It's really dangerous, okay? If I have somebody that comes in with a 5-year commitment, you can have them do their whole time in segregation, but I don't want them living next to me when you release them. The normal person, they're going to be thinking, if you punish them, you're going to make them better. And the reality is the exact opposite happens.
States across the country are now starting to rethink their use of segregation. 3 years ago, Maine began to send fewer inmates into solitary and moved prisoners with serious mental illness out of the unit. Now the prison's new warden is trying to take the reforms even further.
I want you out on the other side of that door, because that's good for you to be on this side of the door, not that side. And you can hold me accountable. I want you to be in there. We need to make every attempt at moving them out of those cells and moving them into general population. On the surface, it might look crazy, but the reality is 80% of these inmates are going to be hitting the street. Okay, so we can either make them worse, okay, and create more victims when they go on the street, or we can rehabilitate them.
But the warden can't simply release violent, unstable prisoners back into general population. Adam started a riot. Todd assaulted an officer. Gordon stabbed another inmate with a screwdriver. And some of the prisoners in solitary are even more dangerous.
I strangled the correctional officer and hid him under my bed, and then another one came in the pod, and I knocked him out and dragged him into a utility closet and beat his head in with a mop wringer. And so I've been in prison a long time. That was when I was 16.
Peter Gibbs has been in and out of solitary for over 30 years. He wants to be transferred to a prison in his home state and has threatened to murder the warden if it doesn't happen.
I will assault, attack, stab, do whatever I have to do to get out of your facility. I will stay
In most prisons, he could expect to be stuck in solitary indefinitely.
I will kill one of your inmates. I don't have nothing to lose.
But the warden wants his team to consider moving even Peter Gibbs back to general population.
I want out of here. My children can't come see me. I'm not rich. We're not rich, you know? So they don't have the money to come here, you know?
So Mr. Gibbs, what do we need to do to get out of this hole that we're in, okay?
I need to be medicated.
Okay, and what did I say?
And that makes me sociable.
Okay, I'm gonna follow that up. You can't keep on threatening to kill me. If you're threatening to kill me, I'm probably not gonna let you out of this room. And if you threaten to kill anybody, one thing about you, Mr. Gibbs, that I know is you're good for your word.
I thought it would get me back to New Hampshire. I thought, if you tell them we don't want Mr. Gibbs here, they have to take me back.
They don't have to take you back.
Then I'll homicide one of your inmates, and then you guys can do what you...
do, let me finish, is they'll make arrangements for you to go from here to another state.
Well,
New
then
Jersey, Maryland,
No,
something like
Jersey's
that.
refused me. Rhode Island's refused me because of my mental health issues.
It seems to me that you'd like to see your wife and your two daughters.
Yes, that's
And
the
it
most
seems to me
important thing.
that you'd like to get back out in general population. What we're gonna
As long
do,
as somewhere down the road we can convince New Hampshire Mr. Gibbs is doing unreal, he's changed, and maybe take me back.
look, what I can control is how do I move Mr. Gibbs out of the seg unit, okay?
Gibbs will have to prove he is no longer a threat before he's moved out of solitary.
You know, you start with baby steps, right?
Well, what are you looking at for like a time period? Can you start giving me some stuff in my cell maybe, like to do?
But the senior prison staff are concerned. Adam is becoming increasingly unstable.
101 roulette.
Last night, he covered his window and threatened to cut himself. Because of his behavior, his original 60 days of solitary has increased to more than 100 days.
Mr. Ballot, how are you feeling today?
Better.
That's good to hear.
All I really want to do is go to school and not go to CPOD and do my own time. Leave it in like 170 days.
Adam is anxious about life after prison.
Do all I can to keep busy.
He's desperate to take his GED to give himself a chance of employment when he's released.
I want you guys to know I need to do. I need to go to school.
Okay.
And I want my GED. That's all I ask.
Okay.
I'm not going to go out there and scram for another job selling drugs and because I don't have no education.
I told you at your door yesterday, give me a shot. Give me a chance. If I fill you full of then you do what you think you got to do, okay? And we'll do what we got to do. We'll do our best to get you the help you need, but I need you to do your part. You need to keep your head screwed on straight, okay?
Put me on the bottom of the list.
They didn't,
I'm about to freak out.
They didn't come down and it was addressed, okay? So
2 weeks have passed since Adam was told he'd be able to take his GED.
yes, they do. You're going to be getting your GED, okay?
Well, I want to do some testing tomorrow.
Absolutely.
With snap.
You know what? That's a legitimate request. But you snapping isn't going to get it to you. Give me a shot at trying to help you out with the GED gig.
Yeah, and it's been 2 weeks. This close.
Okay.
Just close.